You can rise above the person you used to be, and you don't need a new year, a big break, or a miracle to do it. You only need 1 hour a day. Most people never change because they never create space for change. They wake up, repeat the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same habits, and then wonder why life feels stuck. It's not because they lack potential. It's because their days never give them enough room to become someone new. 1 hour a day is not simply time. It is identity training. It is the moment you step out of autopilot and step into intention. When you give yourself 1 hour, you stop living on reflex. You stop letting other people's expectations pull you in every direction. You stop surrendering your energy to distractions that have done nothing but drain you for years. That hour becomes the quiet rebellion against the version of you that kept you small. And here's the truth most people avoid. Your old self is comfortable. Your old self is predictable. Your old self will fight to keep you exactly where you are. But you weren't made to live the same year on repeat. In this hour, you reclaim something sacred. You reclaim your focus. You reclaim your clarity. You reclaim your direction. Think about it. When was the last time you spent intentional time with your own mind, without noise, without rushing, without reacting to everything happening around you? When was the last time you sat with your goals long enough to feel them again? Most people haven't done that in years, and that's exactly why they feel disconnected from themselves. This audiobook is a reset, a doorway, a line in the sand that separates who you were from who you are capable of becoming. Over the next hour, you will learn how a single daily practice can rewire the way you think, act, and show up in the world. You will see how 1 hour of clarity can outperform an entire week of chaos. You will understand why deep focus is a superpower in a distracted culture, and you will learn how small, disciplined actions shape the identity you rise into. You're not here for motivation that fades in a day. You're here to build a life that doesn't collapse the moment things get hard. You're here to build a mind that can hold pressure, stay centered, and keep moving forward. And you're not alone. Millions of people feel the same heaviness you've felt, the same frustration, the same sense that life should be more than reacting to emails, chasing approval, drowning in noise, and feeling like your best self is always someday. But someday isn't coming. You either create the hour or you lose another year. You either choose intention or you stay the same. You either rise or you repeat. This hour is your turning point. In this journey, you'll discover the power of silence, the strength of discipline, and the freedom of breaking old mental patterns. You'll learn to win your mornings. You'll learn to build deep focus. You'll learn to stop negotiating with the version of you that keeps sabotaging your future. By the end, you will understand one life-altering principle. You don't rise by accident. You rise on purpose. And it all starts with 1 hour a day. 1 hour to remember who you are. 1 hour to build who you want to become. 1 hour to rise above your old self. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why 1 hour changes everything. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because their days are too crowded for change to enter. You cannot build a new life inside an old routine, and you cannot rise above your old self while living the same day on repeat. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize something simple yet life-altering. Change is not a matter of talent. Change is a matter of space. If you never create space for growth, growth will never find you. 1 hour a day is that space. It is the doorway between who you've been and who you intend to become. It is the one place in your schedule where the world stops pulling on you long enough for you to pull yourself forward. When you give yourself 1 hour, you reclaim ownership of your life. Not in theory, not in wishful thinking, but in action. The truth is harsh but liberating. Your life today is built from the hours you gave away yesterday. Your future will be built from the hours you guard today. And 1 hour, protected fiercely, can redirect everything. People assume transformation requires dramatic shifts. They imagine quitting everything, starting fresh, burning through endless motivation, or reinventing themselves overnight. But transformation rarely begins with fireworks. It begins quietly. It begins in an hour most people overlook. This hour is where discipline is learned. This hour is where clarity emerges. This hour is where identity starts to shift. Imagine a bricklayer placing a single brick every day. One brick seems ordinary, forgettable, almost meaningless. But over time, a wall appears. A structure forms. A new reality stands where only empty space existed. Your hour is that brick. Every time you show up, you place another piece of the future you want, and slowly, the life you're building becomes too solid to collapse and too real to ignore. 1 hour a day doesn't ask you to be extraordinary. It asks you to be consistent. And consistency is what rewires your brain, reshapes your habits, and rebuilds your self-trust. You rise not because of what you do once. You rise because of what you do repeatedly. This is why an hour matters. It is long enough to change your direction, yet small enough to be impossible to excuse. It removes all the stories you tell yourself about time. It removes all the illusions about starting someday. It forces you to confront the truth. You do have time. You just haven't been using it to rise. The moment you commit to 1 hour, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel less like a passenger in your own life and more like the driver. You stop waiting for momentum and start generating it. You stop hoping for progress and begin producing it. You stop dreaming of becoming better and start behaving like someone who actually will. This hour teaches you discipline in a world addicted to distraction. It teaches you patience in a world obsessed with instant results. It teaches you clarity in a world drowning in noise. It teaches you resilience when everything around you feels uncertain. But most importantly, this hour teaches you that you are still capable of changing. And that belief alone is powerful enough to rebuild an entire life. The mind you bring into this hour will not be the mind you leave with. At first, you may feel resistance. Your old self will protest. It will whisper excuses. It will try to negotiate, delay, distract, or sabotage. Not because you're weak, but because your old identity recognizes that growth threatens its existence. Your old self wants to stay comfortable. Your new self wants to rise. This hour is where the battle between the two takes place, and you win that battle not by trying to erase your old self, but by choosing actions that strengthen your new one. You win by showing up even when you're tired. You win by focusing even when it's inconvenient. You win by honoring this hour as a commitment, not a suggestion. Growth happens in the repetition. Identity grows in the evidence. When you repeat the behavior of the person you want to become, your brain begins to accept a new truth. You're no longer someone trying to change. You are someone who changes, and that shift is everything. 1 hour a day becomes the rhythm of your evolution. It becomes the pulse of your future. It becomes the quiet proof that you're done living beneath your potential. This hour does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks for honesty with yourself. It asks for the courage to stay when your mind wants to run. It asks for the strength to keep going even when nothing appears to be changing yet, but things are changing. Deep under the surface, inside your thoughts, inside your patterns, inside your identity. Small shifts, repeated quietly, eventually become visible in loud ways. The world may not see your hour, but your future will. Your confidence will. Your discipline will. Your entire life will. And one day, you will wake up and realize something undeniable. You rose. You rose slowly. You rose quietly. You rose intentionally. And it all started with 1 hour you decided to protect. 1 hour to think. 1 hour to grow. 1 hour to rise above your old self. This is where your new life begins. Chapter 2. Cutting distractions to reclaim your mind. Your mind is your most powerful asset. But for most people, it has become the most neglected. We live in a world that fights for our attention every second. Notifications, noise, comparison, pressure, opinions, expectations, all competing for space inside your head. Slowly, almost silently, they erode your clarity until you can no longer hear your own thoughts. You cannot rise above your old self while drowning in distractions. You cannot build a stronger mind while giving your attention away to everything that asks for it. And you cannot reclaim your life until you reclaim the place where your life begins, your mind. There is a truth most people refuse to face. You cannot focus if you do not first remove what is breaking your focus. Distractions don't just steal time. They steal identity. They steal the ability to think deeply, act intentionally, choose wisely, and feel grounded. They keep you reacting instead of directing. They keep you busy instead of being effective. The modern world has trained people to live in fragments, scrolling in fragments, thinking in fragments, working in fragments, dreaming in fragments. And over time, your mind forgets how to stay in one place long enough for anything meaningful to grow. To reclaim your mind, you must build a boundary the world cannot cross, a space where silence is protected, a space where intention returns, a space where your thoughts belong to you again. Imagine walking into a room where everything inside demands your attention, lights flashing, voices calling, objects moving. It's impossible to feel present in a place that is constantly shaking you. Yet this is how most people live inside their own heads. Your mind is not noisy by nature. It is noisy because it has become a hallway with too many open doors. You must close those doors. Not because the world is evil, but because your focus is sacred. Not because silence is easy, but because silence is necessary. Not because distractions disappear on their own, but because you choose to no longer feed them. When you give yourself 1 hour a day without distractions, something remarkable happens. The mental fog lifts, your thoughts deepen, your emotions soften, your energy stops leaking into meaningless places. Your mind remembers what clarity feels like. For the first time in a long time, you become aware of your inner world, the environment where your decisions, habits, and identity are shaped. But silence is uncomfortable at first. The moment you remove distractions, you meet yourself. You meet the thoughts you've been avoiding. You meet the emotions you've been carrying. You meet the questions you've been suppressing. This is why people stay distracted. Noise is easier than self-awareness. Noise lets you avoid the truth that demands change. Noise lets you hide from the life you know you're capable of living. But you're not here to hide. You're here to rise. To reclaim your mind, you must start by choosing what does not get access to your attention. You must choose the silence where you can finally hear your own direction. You must choose the stillness where your thoughts settle and your purpose resurfaces. You must choose the space where your mind learns to breathe again. When you remove distractions, life slows down in the best way. Your reactions soften. Your stress decreases. Your clarity strengthens. Your decisions become more intentional, and you start to feel present inside your own life instead of lost inside everyone else's noise. Presence is the foundation of power. A distracted mind is weak. A focused mind is unstoppable. There's nothing wrong with you for struggling to focus. The world was engineered to break your concentration, but it is your responsibility and your opportunity to take it back. Imagine 1 hour each day where your phone is silent, your browser is closed, your environment is calm, and your attention is yours alone. That hour becomes a sanctuary, a place where you are no longer pulled, pressured, or overwhelmed. A place where you rebuild your mental strength piece by piece. A place where your mind returns to its natural ability to think deeply. In that hour, you begin to remember who you are without the world's noise. You discover how much creativity you still have. You uncover the ideas buried under years of distraction. You finally hear the intuition that's been whispering to you all along. And slowly, you rise above the mental patterns that once controlled you. Removing distractions is not about isolation. It is about liberation. It is about freeing your mind from the grip of everything that pulls you away from your potential. It is about giving yourself the clarity needed to grow into the person you are meant to become. Your mind cannot elevate when it is constantly interrupted. Your purpose cannot surface when it is constantly drowned out. Your best life cannot emerge when your attention is scattered across 1,000 meaningless places. But when you take back your mind, you take back your future. This hour becomes the birthplace of transformation. This hour becomes the place where you outgrow your past. This hour becomes the moment your inner world aligns with the life you want to build. Cutting distractions is not just a habit. It is a declaration that your mind matters, a declaration that your future matters, a declaration that you are done giving your power away to noise. Reclaim your mind, reclaim your clarity, reclaim your direction, and rise above the world that once controlled your attention. This is where you begin to think again. This is where you begin to feel again. This is where you begin to rise. Chapter 3. Win your morning. Win your identity. Your morning is the doorway to the identity you live with for the rest of the day. If you lose yourself in the first hour, the world will control every hour after. Most people don't realize how much their mornings shape their mind. They wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, already pulled into the noise of the world before they've taken a single breath for themselves. Before their feet even touch the ground, their mind has been hijacked. You cannot build a powerful life on a chaotic beginning. You cannot rise above your old self when your first act every morning is surrendering your attention. And you cannot expect clarity if you start the day in confusion. There is a simple truth. The first hour you live determines the person you will be for the rest of the day. When you give your morning away to distraction, you spend the entire day trying to recover focus you never protected. When you give your morning away to stress, your mind spends the rest of the day fighting for calm. When you give your morning away to noise, your clarity never has a chance to surface. But when you claim your morning, everything changes. Clarity becomes natural. Discipline becomes smoother. Identity becomes intentional. Direction becomes sharp. This is the hour where you choose who you are becoming. Not through pressure, but through presence. Not through perfection, but through intention. Your morning is not a routine. Your morning is a message. You're telling your mind what matters. You're telling your body how to show up. You're telling your identity who is in control. If your first hour belongs to the world, you will live the rest of the day reacting. If your first hour belongs to you, you will live the rest of the day leading. The world has trained people to wake up in a panic. Check messages. Check notifications. Check the opinions of others before even checking in with themselves. And in doing so, they hand their inner power to everyone except the person who needs it most, themselves. Your morning should not begin with noise. Your morning should begin with you. When you create a peaceful beginning, the mind expands instead of contracts. You begin the day with breath instead of tension, with intention instead of impulse, with clarity instead of confusion. You begin from a place of strength instead of scrambling to find it later. There is something sacred about the stillness of morning. It is the only time of day where the world hasn't started asking for pieces of you yet. It is the moment you can hear your own thoughts without interruption. It is where you can feel your own emotions before the world tells you how to feel. It is where you meet yourself before you meet anyone else. Winning your morning doesn't require extreme routines. It requires ownership. It requires presence. It requires choosing what your mind touches first. Your identity lives in the actions you repeat. If you begin with distraction, you become someone easily distracted. If you begin with intention, you become someone who moves with purpose. If you begin with discipline, you become someone who keeps their word, especially to themselves. Imagine a morning where your first moments are calm. No noise, no comparison, no rush. Just breath, awareness, and direction. Imagine starting the day with a clear mind instead of a crowded one. That single shift creates a ripple effect through everything you touch. Your decisions sharpen, your emotions settle, your focus deepens, your energy stabilizes, your confidence rises. People underestimate what a single quiet morning can do for their entire life. They underestimate how much strength comes from starting the day from center instead of chaos. They underestimate how much momentum comes from 1 hour of intentional presence. The morning is not simply the beginning of the day. It is the foundation of your identity. It is where you decide whether to repeat your old self or rise into your new one. Your old self wants to reach for the phone. Your old self wants to react. Your old self wants to move without thinking. Your old self wants comfort, not clarity. But your new self is calling you to slow down. Your new self wants stillness. Your new self wants direction. Your new self wants to lead the day, not chase it. Winning your morning means choosing which self you will feed. When you spend your first hour in silence, you train your mind to resist noise. When you spend your first hour in movement, you train your body to carry strength. When you spend your first hour with intention, you train your identity to live from purpose. You are not changing your morning. You are changing your life through the morning. The reason morning matters is simple. Your brain is most open. Your emotions are most impressionable. Your identity is most flexible. It is the perfect moment to plant thoughts that shape who you become throughout the day. If you fill that moment with distraction, your identity fragments. If you fill that moment with clarity, your identity rises. Your morning governs your momentum. Your momentum governs your choices. Your choices govern your identity. Your identity governs your life. This is why 1 hour can change everything. When you win your morning, you begin the day as the strongest version of yourself. When you win your morning, you stop letting the world decide your direction. When you win your morning, you rise before anything has a chance to pull you down. A powerful life begins with a powerful morning, and a powerful morning begins with a single decision. Choose yourself first. Choose stillness, choose clarity, choose intention, choose the person you want to be. Before the world tells you who to be. When you win your morning, you win your identity. And when you win your identity, you win your life. Chapter 4. Deep Focus. Building mental strength. Deep focus is one of the rarest abilities in the modern world. And because it is rare, it is powerful. A focused mind can achieve in an hour what a distracted mind cannot achieve in a week. Most people never experience deep focus. They live in a constant state of mental interruption, jumping from one thought to another before any idea has a chance to grow roots. Their attention is scattered, their energy is diluted, and their potential is never fully unlocked. Not because they are incapable, but because they have forgotten how to stay with something long enough for it to transform them. Deep focus is not just about productivity. It is about self-respect. It is about honoring your mind enough to give it the space it needs to build strength. It is about choosing depth over speed, intention over urgency, and mastery over distraction. Your mind becomes strong when it learns to stay where your body is. You gain power when your attention stops wandering. You rise when you no longer allow every little distraction to pull you away from your purpose. There is a quiet strength in the ability to stay with one thing, to sit with a single task, a single idea, a single intention, without running from the discomfort of concentration. Distraction feels easy. Depth feels demanding, but it is in the demand that your mental strength is forged. Think of a beam of light. When scattered, it illuminates a room. When concentrated, it becomes a laser capable of cutting through steel. Your mind works the same way. Scattered attention creates awareness. Focused attention creates transformation. But deep focus requires commitment. It requires you to break the habit of jumping from one thing to the next. It requires you to resist the urge to check, to scroll, to escape. It requires you to stay. At first, staying feels difficult. Your mind will fight back because it has been conditioned to chase stimulation. It will search for reasons to abandon the task in front of you. It will remind you of everything you should be doing instead. It will try to lure you back into the comfort of chaos. But if you stay past the initial friction, something powerful happens. Your mind slows down, your thoughts deepen, your awareness sharpens, your internal noise fades, and a state of flow begins to emerge. A state where time stretches, creativity expands, and your potential becomes accessible. This state cannot be reached by accident. It is earned, it is trained, it is built in moments of deliberate focus repeated over time. And this is why 1 hour a day matters so much. 1 hour of deep, uninterrupted focus becomes the training ground for your mind. It is where you learn to hold attention, to resist distraction, to choose mastery. It is where your mental muscles are strengthened in ways you cannot yet see but will later feel in everything you do. Deep focus requires environment. Your space must reflect your intention. A cluttered environment leads to a cluttered mind. A chaotic desk leads to chaotic thoughts. When you simplify your surroundings, your mind follows. But environment alone is not enough. Your internal environment must be trained as well. You must teach your mind that focus is safe. You must teach it that stillness is not danger. You must teach it that intensity can be held, not avoided. The world praises multitasking, but mastery comes from the opposite. Mastery comes from immersion. Mastery comes from depth. Mastery comes from the courage to put everything you have into one thing at a time. Your old self wants to scatter. Your new self wants to concentrate. Deep focus is the bridge between the two. When you practice deep focus, you build trust with yourself. You prove that you can stay with something even when it's challenging. You prove that you can resist the pull of instant gratification. You prove that your mind belongs to you, not to your impulses. And trust is the foundation of confidence. Confidence does not come from hype. It comes from evidence. It comes from witnessing yourself show up with discipline again and again. It comes from staying with the work long enough to see your strength grow. There is a moment during deep focus when you realize something profound. Your mind is not broken, it is simply untrained. And like any muscle, it strengthens with resistance. The discomfort you feel when focusing is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of growth. It is your old patterns cracking. It is your attention being reclaimed. It is your identity being rebuilt. Deep focus is where the world quiets down and your potential comes forward. It is where your inner power wakes up. It is where you stop living in fragments and begin living with full presence. This hour becomes the anchor of your day. The moment where you stop scattering and start building. The moment where your thoughts align and your direction becomes undeniable. The moment where you rise above the noise and reconnect with the deepest parts of yourself. A focused mind can create. A focused mind can heal. A focused mind can transform. A focused mind can change an entire life. And that is why deep focus matters. It is not just a skill, it is a path. A path that leads you out of confusion and into clarity, out of chaos and into purpose, out of your old self and into the person you are meant to become. Your mind becomes strong when your attention becomes intentional. And every day you return to this hour, you sharpen the blade of your focus a little more. Stay with what matters. Stay with what builds you. Stay long enough for your mind to rise. Deep focus is not the destination. It is the doorway. Walk through it, and you will discover a version of yourself you've never met. A stronger, clearer, more powerful you. Chapter 5. Break the old mental patterns. There is a version of you that has been running your life for years. A version built from old fears, old beliefs, old reactions, and old wounds. A version shaped by moments you barely remember but still carry every day. And until you break those old patterns, you will continue living inside the limits they created. Your old mental patterns are not just thoughts. They are the invisible architecture of your identity. They tell you what is safe, what is possible, what is familiar, and they will pull you back the moment you try to rise. To elevate yourself, you must understand something essential. Your mind will always try to protect you, even if it means holding you back. It will cling to what it knows, even when what it knows is hurting you. It will choose comfort over growth, familiarity over evolution, repetition over transformation. This is why change feels difficult. You are not fighting your life. You are fighting your wiring. You are fighting the echoes of who you used to be. Your old patterns were built for survival, but survival is not the same as expansion. You are done surviving. You are here to grow. Breaking these patterns begins with awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to see. You cannot rise above thoughts you still believe are truth. You cannot evolve when your mind keeps replaying the same loops. Most people are not trapped by life. They are trapped by unconscious repetition. They wake up with the same doubts. They make the same excuses. They follow the same emotional pathways, and they call it personality when it's really just habit. But once you see the pattern, it loses its power. Once you recognize the thought, you can refuse its influence. Once you catch the old story, you can rewrite the ending. Awareness is liberation. It creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. It allows you to observe your mind instead of obey it. It gives you the power to choose again. Your old patterns will try to convince you they are unbreakable. They will tell you, this is just who you are. They will whisper, you've always been this way. But that voice is not your future self. That voice is your past trying to survive. You are not meant to replay your past. You are meant to outgrow it. Breaking a mental pattern feels uncomfortable because it forces your mind to operate in ways it has never practiced. This discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something new is being built. It is the feeling of stepping beyond your old limitations. It is the resistance that precedes transformation. When you catch yourself falling into an old pattern, pause. Take a breath. Create space between thought and reaction. Space is where identity shifts. Space is where the old loses its grip. In that space, ask yourself a simple question. Who am I choosing to be right now? This question interrupts the flow of your old identity. It forces your mind to consider a new path. It reminds you that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts become actions. Every time you choose differently, you weaken the old pattern. Every time you refuse an old story, you strengthen your new identity. Every time you step into intention instead of impulse, you rise a little higher. Patterns break when you behave like the person you want to become, not the person you have been. Your future self is built through repetition. Your old habits collapse when you stop feeding them. Your new self emerges when you give it evidence, day after day, that it is real. There is a moment in every transformation where the old identity begins to crumble. It feels like pressure. It feels like confusion. It feels like you are caught between two worlds, the person you were and the person you are becoming. This moment is not a setback. It is the threshold of growth. Do not run from that pressure. Walk through it. It is the doorway to a stronger mind. When you break an old pattern, you reclaim a part of yourself that was lost. You reclaim confidence. You reclaim courage. You reclaim power, and eventually, the you that felt small, stuck, or limited becomes someone you barely recognize. The purpose of breaking old patterns is not to erase your past. It is to free your future. It is to stop living on autopilot. It is to stop letting fear disguise itself as logic. It is to stop repeating a version of life that no longer fits who you are becoming. Your old thoughts are not you. Your old reactions are not you. Your old fears are not you. They are echoes. And echoes fade when you stop responding to them. You break patterns by choosing presence over panic, by choosing clarity over chaos, by choosing discipline over impulse, by choosing who you want to be instead of who you used to be. This is the hour where your past and future collide. This is the hour where your identity is rebuilt. This is the hour where your old self begins to lose its grip. And one day, you will look back and realize something powerful. You didn't just break your patterns. You broke the version of yourself that held you back. You broke the limits you once believed were fixed. You broke the identity that kept you small, and in its place, a new self emerged, clearer, stronger, unstoppable. This is how you rise. One new choice at a time. One shifted pattern at a time. One reclaimed hour at a time. Chapter 6. Discipline. When no one is watching. Discipline is not built in public. Discipline is built in the quiet places where no one claps, no one praises, and no one sees what you're doing. The world celebrates results, but results are simply the echo of the discipline practiced in private. People admire the achievements, but overlook the invisible work that made those achievements possible. They praise the final form, but ignore the lonely hours where the transformation actually happened. Your power is not defined by what you do when others are watching. Your power is defined by what you do when no one will ever know. There is a version of you that shows up when people expect something from you. The version that performs. The version that is responsible. The version that stays on track because external pressure keeps you aligned. But the version that matters most is the one who shows up with no audience, no approval, and no reward. That version is the real you. That version is the foundation of your future. When no one is watching, all the masks drop. There is no performance, no expectation, no validation. Just you, your choices, your habits, your character. And that is where discipline is born. Most people fail, not because they lack ambition, but because they cannot rely on themselves when conditions are silent. They depend on accountability from others instead of cultivating accountability within themselves. They need someone to check on them, push them, monitor them, remind them. But external accountability is fragile. Internal accountability is unbreakable. You rise when you honor the commitments no one knows about. You rise when you keep promises that only you can see. You rise when you do the work even though no one will congratulate you for it. Private discipline creates public confidence, and confidence is built in solitude long before it is displayed in the world. There is a quiet strength in choosing the harder path when the easier one is available. A strength in deciding to show up even when there's no consequence if you don't. A strength in refusing to negotiate with excuses even when no one will call you out for them. This strength becomes your edge. Not loud, but undeniable. Not boastful, but unshakable. Private discipline is the difference between hoping for a better life and building one. It is the difference between wanting to change and actually changing. It is the difference between a temporary burst of motivation and a permanent shift in identity. Motivation is cheap. Discipline is priceless. Motivation pushes you when conditions are convenient. Discipline pulls you through when conditions are not. Motivation fades under pressure. Discipline strengthens because of pressure. And every day you return to your hour, even in silence, even in discomfort, you are proving something essential to yourself. You're proving that you are someone you can rely on. Self-respect grows when you keep promises to yourself. Self-worth grows when you follow through without needing applause. Self-trust grows when your actions align with your intentions. And these qualities, once developed, reshape your entire identity. Silent work becomes your advantage because silence eliminates ego. It eliminates comparison. It eliminates pressure to impress. It leaves only the work, pure, honest, unfiltered. In that silence, you learn what you're capable of. You learn how strong you can be. You learn that you do not need permission, validation, or recognition to become who you want to be. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life will happen alone, not on stages, not in front of others, but in small, consistent moments where you choose discipline over comfort. Every time you show up in private, you strengthen the identity of someone who finishes what they start. Every time you ignore excuses, you weaken the version of you that once controlled your decisions. Every time you do the hard thing quietly, you build a life that will eventually speak loudly. Discipline in private becomes confidence in public. Confidence in public becomes momentum in life, and momentum becomes transformation. But it begins with one moment, one choice, 1 hour, done consistently without anyone watching. Your old self wants approval. Your new self wants growth. Your old self wants the easy path. Your new self wants the right path. Your old self wants shortcuts. Your new self wants mastery. Every time you choose the new path, you rise a little higher. The beauty of private discipline is that you never need to announce it. Your results will speak for you. Your energy will shift. Your character will deepen. Your competence will expand. Your reputation will grow in ways words could never replicate. You do not need people to know what you are doing. You need to know what you are doing, and you need to know that you're the kind of person who shows up regardless of who sees it. This hour you dedicate to yourself is not a small act. It is a contract between you and your future. A contract that says, I will rise, even in silence. Your life will not change because you want it to. It will change because you chose discipline when no one was watching. It will change because you built strength in the dark that will shine in the light. It will change because you stayed committed long after the emotion of motivation faded. Every private victory becomes a public transformation, not instantly, but inevitably. Discipline is not loud. Discipline is steady. Discipline is patient. Discipline is loyal. Discipline is who you become when you stop seeking permission and start seeking mastery. Chapter 7. Small Actions, Massive Transformation. Transformation does not happen through dramatic moments. It happens through quiet repetitions that no one notices at first, including you. Most people chase big changes. They want breakthroughs, drastic shifts, and instant results. They want life to transform overnight, but overnight transformation is a myth. Real transformation is built on the back of small, consistent actions practiced with intention. Your life is not shaped by what you do occasionally. Your life is shaped by what you repeat until repetition becomes identity. One small action done with clarity is more powerful than a grand plan with no follow-through. One small step done consistently can outrun a giant leap fueled only by motivation. Small actions compound. Small actions accumulate. Small actions build a foundation so strong that your entire life eventually rises on top of it. This is the principle most people ignore. Massive transformation is nothing more than the result of tiny commitments kept over time. But small actions feel insignificant. And because they feel insignificant, most people abandon them too soon. They expect immediate progress. They expect visible results. They expect rewards on day one. And when they don't see change quickly, they assume nothing is happening. But something is always happening. Growth is invisible at first. Strength is invisible at first. Identity is invisible at first. Every small action is a seed. And seeds grow underground long before they break the surface. Transformation begins in places no one sees. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, a seed is planted. Every time you show up for your hour, a seed is planted. Every time you repeat the behavior of your future self, a seed is planted. And eventually, those seeds turn into roots. Roots strong enough to hold the weight of the future you are building. Roots deep enough to sustain the changes you once believed were impossible. Small actions become massive transformation because they become who you are. You cannot rise above your old self in one dramatic moment. You rise through small behaviors repeated so consistently they become a new identity. You rise through the daily effort no one applauds. You rise through the small choices that slowly, quietly reshape your internal world. At first, small actions feel too easy. They don't demand much. They don't feel heroic. They don't feel life-changing, but they are powerful precisely because they are easy, because you can do them every day, because they ask for consistency, not perfection, because they allow you to build momentum instead of relying on motivation. Momentum is the secret. Once you have momentum, everything becomes easier. Every choice becomes clearer. Every challenge becomes manageable. Every habit becomes lighter to carry. Momentum is built through repetition, not intensity. It is better to take a small step every day than a huge step once in a while. It is better to build a long chain of consistent days than to burn bright for a moment and disappear. It is better to choose progress over performance. Small actions are sustainable. Small actions are repeatable. Small actions build trust with yourself because they do not require you to be perfect, only present. And trust is the foundation of transformation. When you trust yourself to show up, breakthrough becomes inevitable. When you trust yourself to follow through, fear loses its influence. When you trust yourself to stay consistent, your identity begins to shift into someone unstoppable. Small actions also bypass resistance. Your mind does not panic when something feels manageable. Your fear does not activate when the step is small. Your old self does not fight change when the action feels familiar enough to attempt. This is the brilliance of starting small. You slip past your old identity's defenses. You bypass the patterns that once held you back. You begin changing without triggering the psychological barriers that made change feel impossible. The reason small actions lead to massive transformation is that they make one feel safe. Over time, these actions stack. They accumulate into a new lifestyle. They merge into a new story you tell yourself about who you are, and the story you tell yourself determines the life you live. Your small actions whisper a message to your identity. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who grows. I'm someone who keeps going. I am someone who rises. These whispers become beliefs. Beliefs become behaviors. Behaviors become identity. Identity becomes destiny. This is how transformation happens. Not through grand gestures, but through repeated choices that align with your future self. And here's the truth you must remember. It is impossible to remain the same when you consistently act like someone different. Identity cannot resist evidence. Your old self cannot survive proof that you are becoming someone new. This is why 1 hour a day is enough. It allows you to act as your future self every single day. It gives you the repetition necessary to rewrite your patterns. It provides the frequency needed to change your internal story. You do not need to overhaul your entire life. You only need to honor the small actions that move you forward. You only need to keep showing up with intention. You only need to keep giving your hour a chance to transform you. At first, the changes feel subtle. You wake with a little more clarity. You feel a little more grounded. You act with a little more confidence. You move with a little more purpose. Then one day, something shifts. You look back and realize how far you've come. You see the difference in your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, your choices. You notice that the person you used to be doesn't feel familiar anymore. Massive transformation finally becomes visible, not because of a single big moment, but because of countless small moments that you chose to honor. You rose, not suddenly, not dramatically, but consistently. Chapter 8. Rise above your old self. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the old self can no longer travel with them. A moment when the habits, beliefs, and stories that once felt familiar become too small for the life they're growing into. A moment when staying the same becomes more painful than changing. That moment is the beginning of rising. Your old self is not your enemy. It is simply the version of you that did the best it could with the awareness it had. But that version cannot carry you into your future. It was built for survival, not expansion. It was shaped by fear, not vision. To rise above your old self, you must be willing to let go of the identity that kept you comfortable. You must release the patterns that kept you predictable. You must outgrow the limits you once accepted as truth. There is a painful beauty in outgrowing your old life. You lose the familiarity you once clung to. You lose the excuses that once protected you. You lose the version of yourself that felt safe only because it was known. But what you gain is far greater than what you leave behind. You gain possibility, you gain clarity, you gain space to become the person you were always capable of being. Rising above your old self requires honesty. Honesty about what has been holding you back. Honesty about the habits you've outgrown. Honesty about the emotions you've been avoiding. Honesty about the beliefs that were never really yours. Most people want a new life, but they want to keep their old identity. They want transformation without surrender. They want progress without discomfort. They want growth without letting go. But you cannot rise while holding on to what keeps you grounded. You cannot become someone new while clinging to who you used to be. You cannot evolve if you only practice the behaviors of the past. Your old self will not disappear quietly. It will cling. It will negotiate. It will whisper reasons to stay the same. It will remind you of fears you've already outgrown. It will disguise comfort as wisdom. But comfort is the cage, and rising requires walking out of it. When you decide to rise, you begin to make choices that align with your future self, not your former one. You speak differently. You move differently. You think differently. You treat yourself differently. You expect more from yourself than you ever have before. And those choices send a message to your identity. A message that says, I'm no longer who I used to be. Rising above your old self is not a single act. It is a daily practice. It happens in the silence of early mornings, in the discipline of showing up, in the courage to face discomfort, in the willingness to choose long-term growth over short-term relief. Your old self is built from repetition. Your new self must be built the same way. The moment you begin to act like the person you want to become, your mind starts to believe that transformation is possible. The moment you choose intention over impulse, your identity begins to shift. The moment you show up for your hour consistently, your old self slowly releases its hold. It loses power each time you choose differently. Rising above your old self often feels like grief. You grieve the familiar. You grieve the person you no longer are. You grieve the life that once felt safe. But grief is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It is a sign that you are shedding layers that no longer fit your future. There is courage in letting go. Courage in stepping into uncertainty. Courage in trusting the version of you that you have not fully met yet. Your future self is calling you forward, not loudly, but firmly, not with pressure, but with clarity, not with fear, but with invitation. And every day you rise a little more into that version. Every day you make choices that strengthen it. Every day you practice thoughts, habits, and actions that bring it to life. Rising above your old self means claiming responsibility for your evolution. It means refusing to blame circumstances for who you are. It means choosing growth even when growth feels unfamiliar. It means taking ownership of your identity instead of repeating the one handed to you by your past. Your old self brings you to the base of the mountain. Your new self climbs it. The person you are becoming will require things from you. things your old self struggled to give. More patience, more discipline, more clarity, more courage, more belief. But you do not need to be perfect. You only need to be willing. Willing to rise even when you're unsure. Willing to grow even when it's uncomfortable. Willing to trust that the future you are building is worth the discomfort of leaving the familiar behind. And at some point, the shift becomes undeniable. You stop identifying with your weaknesses. You stop accepting the limitations that once defined you. You stop engaging in habits that no longer match your vision. You stop believing the old stories that once kept you small. You begin to move with purpose. You begin to think with clarity. You begin to act with confidence. You begin to feel at home in the version of yourself you once only imagined. Rising above your old self is not about becoming someone different. It is about becoming someone true. It is about peeling away the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning to reveal the strength that was always within you. Chapter 9. Build relentless consistency. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not thrilling, dramatic, or loud. Consistency is quiet. Consistency is steady. Consistency is the force that transforms your life in ways motivation never could. Most people fail, not because they lack talent or desire, but because they cannot sustain effort long enough for change to take effect. They start strong and fade quickly. They chase intensity, but abandon the discipline that actually produces results. They rely on momentum that disappears the moment life becomes inconvenient. Consistency is what remains when emotion leaves. It is what carries you through the days when motivation is gone, when energy is low, when life feels heavy. It is what keeps you aligned with your goal even when your mind tells you to stop. If you want to rise above your old self, you must build consistency that refuses to break. Consistency does not demand perfection. Consistency demands return. It demands showing up again and again, even if the progress feels slow, even if the steps feel small, even if the results are not yet visible. Your old self thrives on inconsistency. It wants to chase comfort. It wants to wait for the perfect moment. It wants results without repetition. But repetition is where real identity is built. Every consistent action reinforces the story you tell yourself about who you are. Every consistent hour adds another layer to your new foundation. Every consistent decision weakens the version of you that once held you back. Consistency is evidence, and evidence is what convinces your mind that transformation is real. The mistake most people make is believing consistency means doing everything flawlessly. But you do not need perfect days. You need returned days. You need the ability to continue even when the day is messy, busy, stressful, or distracting. You need the courage to do something instead of nothing. The person who returns every day will always outperform the person who only performs when conditions are ideal. Consistency is a relationship between you and your future self. Every time you show up, you strengthen that relationship. Every time you abandon it, you weaken your trust in yourself. Self-trust is the fuel of consistency. When you believe in your own follow-through, discipline becomes natural. When you doubt yourself, every action feels heavier, every step feels uncertain. Your new self is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the repetition of small, intentional acts done so consistently that they become part of your identity. Identity comes from what you do repeatedly, not what you dream about, not what you plan, not what you speak, what you repeat. And this is why 1 hour a day matters more than anything else in this journey. It is the anchor that holds your transformation steady. It is the ritual that reinforces your new identity. It is the container where consistency is trained and strengthened. Your mind grows stronger every time you return. Your patterns shift every time you return. Your identity recalibrates every time you return. Return is the victory. There will be days when the hour feels effortless, when clarity flows, when motivation is high, when everything aligns. There will also be days when the hour feels heavy, slow, or frustrating. These are the days that shape you the most. These are the days that separate the committed from the casual. These are the days where consistency becomes character. Consistency means choosing to rise even when rising feels difficult. It means keeping the promise not because you feel like it, but because it defines you. It means trusting the process, even when the results have not yet revealed themselves. Transformation often looks like nothing until it suddenly looks like everything. Your body does not change the first time you train. Your mind does not shift the first time you think differently. Your life does not transform the first time you show up with intention. But the continuation of that action, the devotion to returning, builds momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. Momentum created through consistency is one of the most powerful forces in your life. It carries you forward even on the days when effort feels heavy. It amplifies progress, it accelerates clarity, it sharpens identity, and once momentum is created, it becomes easier to maintain than to break. Your mind adapts to the rhythm. Your body adjusts to the flow. Your identity aligns with the pattern. Returning becomes natural. Rising becomes expected. Growth becomes inevitable. The key to relentless consistency is not force. It is simplicity. It is reducing friction. It is making the return easy enough that your old self cannot sabotage it. It is lowering the barrier to entry while keeping the standard of commitment high. Your hour does not need to be extraordinary. It needs to be honored. It needs to be guarded. It needs to be protected, not because of what happens in a single day, but because of what it builds over time. Every day you return, you carve a new path in your mind. Every day you return, you strengthen the neural patterns that support your future. Every day you return, you become someone who rises consistently instead of occasionally. In time, consistency becomes your nature. It becomes the quiet strength others admire. It becomes the difference between a life you dream about and a life you actually live. It becomes the proof that you are no longer controlled by your old self. You rise because you return. You rise because you refuse to quit. You rise because you choose the long path over the easy one. You rise because you build rhythm, discipline, and identity through repetition. Relentless consistency is not about doing everything. It is about not stopping. It is about refusing to break the chain. It is about choosing intention again and again until your life aligns with the person you have become. Chapter 10. Become unstoppable. Through responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden. Responsibility is freedom. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, you stop waiting for permission to rise. Most people feel stuck because they are waiting for the circumstances to change. They wait for the right timing, the right motivation, the right environment, the right opportunity. But waiting is a prison disguised as patience, and nothing changes while you wait. Taking responsibility means understanding a simple truth. Your life is shaped by your choices, not your conditions. Your identity is shaped by your actions, not your excuses. Your future is shaped by your decisions, not your fears. Responsibility is not about blame. Blame keeps you powerless. Responsibility puts the power back in your hands. The moment you stop blaming circumstances, you reclaim control. The moment you stop blaming the past, you reclaim possibility. The moment you stop blaming others, you reclaim your direction. Your old self avoided responsibility because responsibility requires courage. It requires honesty. It requires admitting that you are capable of more than the life you've been living. It requires acknowledging that your habits, your patterns, your reactions, and your results were created by you. But this is not condemnation. This is liberation. Because if you created your old life, you can create your new one. Responsibility is the foundation of becoming unstoppable. When you claim responsibility, nothing is outside your reach. You no longer wait for someone to push you. You no longer rely on motivation. You no longer cling to excuses that once kept you small. You become unstoppable when you decide that everything in your life is your responsibility. Your growth, your mindset, your discipline, your habits, your reactions, your identity. Responsibility is the ultimate form of self-respect. It says, I trust myself to shape my life. It says, I am capable. It says, I am not a victim of circumstance. I am the creator of my path. The most powerful people are not the ones with the easiest lives. They are the ones who took responsibility despite difficulty. They chose to rise in conditions where others chose to settle. They chose ownership where others chose blame. They chose growth where others chose excuses. Responsibility transforms obstacles into opportunities. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what can I do with this? Instead of collapsing under pressure, you rise through it. Instead of feeling powerless, you claim your agency. Every challenge becomes a chance to practice strength. Every setback becomes a lesson in resilience. Every failure becomes data that moves you forward. When you take responsibility, life no longer happens to you. Life happens through you. This shift changes everything. Your energy becomes grounded, your focus becomes sharper, your decisions become intentional, your identity becomes aligned with strength rather than limitation. Responsibility creates self-trust, because every time you take ownership of your actions, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling whatever comes next. Self-trust creates confidence, because you no longer fear challenges, you know you can meet them. Confidence creates momentum, because once you believe in your ability to rise, rising becomes your nature. Responsibility is the spark. Self-trust is the fire. Confidence is the flame. Momentum is the wildfire that transforms your life. This is what makes you unstoppable. When you accept responsibility, excuses lose their power. You no longer say, I can't. You say, how can I? You no longer say, this is just how I am. You say, this is who I choose to become. You no longer say, I wish things were different. You say, I will make them different. Responsibility forces clarity. It forces you to face the places where you have been hiding. It forces you to confront the habits you've been defending. It forces you to see the gap between who you are and who you want to be. And once you see that gap, you can cross it. Your hour each day is an act of responsibility. It is the moment you take ownership of your growth. It is the moment you stop outsourcing your future. It is the moment you say, if I want to rise, I will rise. Nothing makes you more powerful than choosing responsibility even when you have every excuse not to. Nothing builds more strength than doing the work even when no one is watching. Nothing expands your future more than taking ownership of the present. Responsibility shifts the question from, why can't I, to, what will I do about it? It shifts your identity from passive to active. It shifts your energy from fear to determination. It shifts your mindset from limitation to possibility. You rise the moment you stop waiting. You rise the moment you stop blaming. You rise the moment you take full ownership of your path, and that rise becomes unstoppable. Becoming unstoppable does not mean life becomes easy. It means difficulty no longer decides your fate. It means challenges no longer control your identity. It means setbacks no longer derail your purpose. You stand up because it is who you are now. You continue because it is your nature. You rise because responsibility has become your strength. This is the final shift. The shift from living as a passenger to living as the creator of your life. Responsibility is not weight, it is wings, and when you carry it fully, you rise higher than you ever have before. Become unstoppable by taking ownership of everything within your reach. Your habits, your mindset, your actions, your hour, your growth, your life. When you take responsibility, you no longer hope to rise. You rise because you choose to. You rise because you commit to. You rise because nothing, not fear, not doubt, not difficulty, has more influence over you than your decision to grow. This is the power of responsibility. This is how you become unstoppable. This is how you rise above every version of who you used to be. You have spent this hour confronting the parts of yourself that most people avoid for a lifetime. You have peeled back the layers of distraction, discipline, identity, and responsibility. You have stepped into thoughts, habits, and truths that challenge the version of you that once felt permanent. But nothing about you is permanent unless you decide it is. You are not bound to the person you were yesterday. You are not chained to your old patterns. You are not limited by the beliefs that once shaped you. You are free to rebuild yourself, one intentional hour at a time. This journey was never about sudden transformation. It was about awakening. It was about remembering the strength you already have. It was about reclaiming the focus, clarity, and identity that have always been yours. 1 hour a day may seem small, but it is enough to rewrite a life. Because transformation is not created through intensity. Transformation is created through intention. You rise through practice. You rise through presence. You rise through commitment to the version of you that you know you can become. As you move beyond this audiobook, you carry more than tools. You carry a new standard for yourself. A standard shaped not by pressure or perfection, but by ownership and intention. The hour you dedicate each day is not a task. It is a declaration that your growth matters, a declaration that your identity is not fixed, a declaration that you refuse to repeat the life you have outgrown. Your old self will try to return, not because you are weak, but because it is familiar. Your old patterns will whisper. Your old habits will tempt. Your old stories will try to reclaim their place in your mind. But you have learned something they cannot erase. You have learned that you always have a choice to focus, a choice to rise, a choice to take responsibility, a choice to stay consistent, a choice to step into the identity you are building. You are no longer reacting to your life. You are sculpting it. The moment you claim responsibility, you become unstoppable. The moment you claim discipline, you become grounded. The moment you claim focus, you become powerful. The moment you claim consistency, you become inevitable. There is a version of you that is waiting on the other side of your excuses. A version whose life feels bigger, clearer, more aligned. A version who does not fear the future because they trust themselves to face it. A version who does not collapse under pressure but stabilizes through it. That version of you is not distant. That version of you is activated every time you choose intention over impulse. Every time you choose the hour over the excuse. Every time you choose presence over distraction. Every time you choose responsibility over blame. Your life will not change in a single day, but your direction can. And direction is what shapes destiny. Every hour you dedicate to growth becomes a signature on the new identity you are building. Every moment of discipline becomes evidence of the person you are becoming. Every act of consistency becomes a vote for your future. You are building a life that will reflect these choices. A life with more clarity. A life with more strength. A life with more self-respect. A life aligned with the person you are always meant to be. Remember this, the world cannot stop someone who shows up for themselves every day. You don't need motivation. You need intention. You don't need permission. You need commitment. You don't need the perfect plan. You need the courage to return to your hour, again and again. If you give yourself that hour, your transformation is inevitable. If you guard that hour, your identity will shift. If you honor that hour, your old self will fade. If you commit to that hour, your future will expand. This is how you rise, not in dramatic moments, but in the quiet, disciplined hours that only you know about. The hours where no one is watching and you still choose growth. The hours where you step into responsibility instead of retreating into excuses. The hours where you build consistency until consistency builds you. Your power lives in that hour. And as you leave this audiobook, you carry with you the truth that changed everything. You're never more than 1 hour away from changing your life. 1 hour away from clarity, 1 hour away from discipline, 1 hour away from identity, 1 hour away from becoming the person you were meant to be. You're not behind, you're not stuck, you're not lost. You are simply 1 hour away from rising. Commit to that hour, protect that hour, honor that hour with everything inside you. Because if you do, you will wake up one day and realize something astonishing. You have risen so consistently, so intentionally, so powerfully, that your old self can no longer find you. You have outgrown the life that once contained you. You have outgrown the beliefs that once limited you. You have outgrown the habits that once defined you. You have become someone stronger, someone clearer, someone more grounded, more focused, more disciplined, more alive. You have become someone unstoppable. The future is yours now.